Good afternoon. This is the news at 12. I am Adeleke Amo. President Bola Tinubu sought debt forgiveness for developing countries from lenders at the ongoing United Nations Assembly. He called for the recovery of the proceeds of corruption and illicit financial flows from developing countries, stressing that the return of such funds to countries of origin is a fundamental principle of the United Nations Convention against Corruption. The president also called for collective action against hunger, terrorism, climate change, and other global challenges. Meanwhile, he urged world leaders to recommit themselves to materialism by deepening relations among member states of the United Nations in line with the principles of inclusivity, equality, and cooperation. President Tinubu urged the United Nations to prioritize debt forgiveness for Nigeria and other developing countries from creditors and multilateral financial institutions. Osun State Governor Senator Adeleke has reaffirmed his administration's unwavering commitment to improving the welfare of the people of Osun State, emphasizing that every effort will be made to enhance the quality of life for residents. Governor Adeleke stated this at the inauguration of the elected State Community Development Council executives and distribution of operational vehicles for community mobilization held at the open field of the State Government House in Osogbo, the state capital. Governor's office correspondent Oluwatobiloba Odunuga now reports.
Field of the Osun State Government House, Okefia Osogbo again played host to concerned stakeholders of community development, top government functionaries, including the Osun State Governor, Senator Adeleke, his deputy, Prince Kola Adewusi, Secretary to the Osun State Government, Alhaji Testimik Balaye, Chairman House Committee on Rural Development and Community Affairs, Honorable Elisha Oderinwale, Head of Service, Mr. Anyole Yaino, the State People's Democratic Party Chairman, Honorable Sunday Bisi, monarchs and other members of the State Executive Council, who all converge on the open field for the inauguration of Osun Community Development Council executives. In his address, shortly after the inauguration of Osun CDC executives, Osun State Governor Senator Adeleke emphasized that the new elected 764 executives from 30 local government areas of the state are started with the responsibility of complementing the efforts of the government at all times. Governor Adeleke stated further that the community development executives are expected to be partner in progress with government on matters of securing government properties in their local government areas, calling on them to remain responsible and resolute while discharging their duties. The governor assured that his administration will not renege on his promises and commitment to better the lot of the people of Osun State, adding that his government will continue to partner with relevant stakeholders who are ready to key into his various development agenda and other intervention efforts as contained in his administration 5-point agenda.
This responsibility is important, especially at this period of national security challenges. This is based on the realization that no government can meet all the people's needs and their aspirations. The recent procurement of 5 operational vehicles for the community mobilization, all of which will be commissioned shortly, with many more to come, is a testament to this administration priorities, the safety of our people. I therefore charge you to continue to enhance your diverse wealth of experiences to make remarkable contributions towards improving the socio-economic lives of the people at the grassroots.
Earlier in his welcome address, the Commissioner for Rural Development, Alhaji Gani Olaoluwa, appreciated the governor for his relentless support for grassroots development in Osun State, while urging all the executive of Community Development Council to reciprocate the kind gesture to the state government under the leadership of Governor Adeleke. The commissioner added that the new set of executive of Community Development Council across the state had undergone training on strategic management and how they will continue to add value to community development practice in Osun State. The highlight of the event was the administration of oath of office to the Osun CDC executive, followed by the unveiling of the newly acquired operation vehicles for community services, among others. It has been Oluwatobiloba Odunuga reporting.
Meanwhile, Governor Adeleke, in response to high transportation costs, has approved rescheduling of working days for various categories of civil servants and an extension of payment of palliatives for public servants for the next 2 months. A statement by the governor's spokesperson, Malam Olawale Rashid, said the approval, which was contained in a circular from the office of the head of service, was in portions of Governor Adeleke's commitment to the well-being of workers and a response to the present economic situation in the country. Malam Olawale noted that public servants on grade level 01 to grade level 10 will use 3 days a week, while public servants on grade level 12 to grade level 17 will use 4 days a week. It further noted that the arrangements exclude those on essential duties such as medical personnel, security officers, political office holders, and accounting officers. Malam Olawale also added that the governor has approved the continuation of payments of the agreed palliative to public servants in the state for the next 2 months, pending the commencement of the new minimum wage. The President and Chief Executive of Dangote Group, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, has called on the federal government to end fuel subsidies completely. He stressed that the removal would help determine the actual petrol consumption in the country, as his position received backing from the Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria and the Center for Promotion of Public Enterprise. It was gathered that the federal government may spend about 236 billion naira monthly to subsidize the premium motor spirits that is imported through the Nigerian National Petroleum Company and the one that is solely off-taken by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company from the Dangote Petroleum Refinery. Alhaji Dangote noted that subsidy is a very sensitive issue and that once subsidizing something, the people will bloat the price and then the government will end up paying what they are not supposed to be paying. It comes as it was gathered that members of the Major Energies Marketers Association of Nigeria had lifted over 50 million liters of PMS from the Dangote refinery in the past week. The Nigerian Bar Association has raised concerns over low voter turnout and the influence of money on the last Saturday Edo State governorship election. According to the report jointly signed by the leader of NBA's election working group, Bola Tumiani Mashao, and the General Secretary, Omobolaji Ojibara, the team monitored the poll across all the polling units in the state. In the report released, the NBA said its monitoring team observed that voting materials and officials arrived late in many polling units, particularly within Benin City, the state capital, noting also that vote buying at polling units was on the high side, despite efforts to prevent the menace. The NBA pointed out that there was voter apathy in the election, explaining that the number of voters who turned out at polling units during the election was notably low considering the number of registered voters. In the NBA, in its recommendations, noted that INEC should prioritize the timely deployment of election materials and personnel to avoid delay in subsequent elections, noting that there is a need for intensified voters' education campaign to restore public trust in the electoral process and encourage greater voter participation. Moving on to sports, the International Boxing Federation World Heavyweight Champion Daniel Dubois has opened a rematch with Anthony Joshua barely 24 hours after the latter hinted a possible rematch following his defeat at Wembley. The 24-year-old retained his title with a demolition of Joshua, flooring the two-time world champion 4 times before knocking him out in the 5th round. Joshua's bid to become a 3-time champion and return to the division's top table ended dramatically and unexpectedly, with the boys dropping him several times before he landed the final blow, a crushing right hand in round 5 that saw his English rival fall on the canvas for a 4th career loss. In an interview with newsmen, the boy said he would love a rematch with either Anthony Joshua or Orlando Yuski, depending on which fighter pays the most. Meanwhile, Yuski is set to face Fury in their rematch in December for the WBA, WBO, and WBC belts. And from the foreign scene, Burkina Faso Security Minister Muhammadu Sana has accused some residents in Côte d'Ivoire for involving in subversive activities against the country. The minister named 14 people of plotting the destabilization attempt. Among them are junta opponents, the leader of the January 2022 coup, 2 former ministers, 2 journalists, and unidentified conspirators, included Western intelligence officials. Sana said an elaborate 3-phased plot was devised by some civilians and servicemen living abroad, who paid and trained armed groups to conduct attacks. The minister revealed that several arrests were made in Niger, leading to the dismantling of a significant portion of the plot. The government launched a special anti-terrorist operation to neutralize any remaining threats and has warned that such destabilizing actions will no longer be tolerated. Authorities have urged families of the alleged plotters to denounce them and distance themselves from their subversive activities. And still on the foreign news, China top diplomat Wang Yi has pledged to support Iran in safeguarding its security against external forces in a meeting with the country's new president in New York. Wang met President Masoud Pezeshkian on the sideline of the annual UN General Assembly as Israel launched more strikes against Tehran ally Hezbollah in Lebanon. He promised that the country would also be a trustworthy partner and will continue to support Iran in safeguarding its sovereignty, security, territorial integrity, and national dignity. He also added that China will oppose any external forces interfering in Iran's internal affairs by imposing sanctions or pressure. That ends the midday news on OSBC TV. Join us at 3 for the state news. Good afternoon.